It's happened again. In the space of 7 days, Arsenal have hijacked and taken 2 big, expensive and potentially potent signings away from their North London rivals, Tottenham. Hit the like button, get that subscribe button hit, plus the bell notification as well. But Arsenal Football Club, they are delivering the unprecedented summer transfer window that Sammy McBell spoke about back in February 2025. And you may not know too much about all of their signings. Mascara is one that took us all by shock. This is another one. And I think it's pronounced, I want to make sure I'm saying this right, because I've checked on a few websites today. Hincapie, I think is how it's pronounced. This defender plays central, can play in the wide areas too. Leverkusen player, 60 million euros release clause, so around 51 million pound. By Leverkusen, want the release clause triggered. However, the player has asked to leave for closer to 45 million euros. So there is a way Arsenal could probably drive this price down. On top of that, what's also been stated by Ben Jacobs on this is that he prefers the move. Let's repeat that. He prefers the move to Arsenal over Tottenham, which was so interesting because this morning, Fabrizio Romano broke the news. And he said that Spurs were working on this deal. In fact, I'll get his exact words. It's probably easier to read out what it is that he actually said rather than me butchering it. But let's scroll down. Let's go and find it. So it says here, okay, where are we at? Why can't I find it? Let's scroll. Loads of updates today. So it says it was exclusive. This was at 9:52 a.m. this morning. Tottenham approached Bayer Leverkusen for Piero Hincapie with a new proposal. So it's their second approach, a loan deal with an obligation to buy for around 60 million euros, the same value as a release clause, but to be paid in 2026. It says that Hincapie wants to leave Bayer Leverkusen, and Spurs also started discussions now on personal terms. Now, this came out. Spurs fans are very, very excited. I'm going to keep really neutral on this. I've read some bits and pieces today on the player. I'm not overly familiar with him. I have watched Leverkusen play, but he wasn't someone that I was overly focused on. You guys can tell me in the comments how good, how bad, how indifferent you are about the individual. But Spurs were pushing. And I smelt an Arsenal rat. And I mean that in the possible sense of the word. I smelt an Arsenal hijack when within 25 minutes of Fabrizio pushing this story out, the journalists and the intermediaries close to Tottenham that always have Tottenham's back, the journalists surrounding them, started doing the whole, well, I've not heard that Spurs are interested. I didn't know Spurs were going to make a bid. It's not what I've been told. Spurs have distanced themselves from this. Spurs are not active in this pursuit. To which everybody thought, okay, well, that's a little strange that they're saying this. It's a little weird that one of the leading transfer journalists has put out an exclusive, not just a kind of aggregation of the news from others and tag somebody else, but an actual exclusive story. And then the Ben Jacobs cracker landed, which I've just read out to you a few moments ago, and that is that Arsenal are set to bid for Hincapie, who favours a move to the Emirates Stadium over Spurs. It says here that the release clause is 60 million. With Kivior leaving, that's essentially going to fund it. We already told you that the player is looking and pushing to leave for around 45 million. He's trying to get a permanent deal done. He then goes on to say Spurs don't consider themselves active suitors now and not aware of any formal bids. And of course, that's because their bid may have been an informal offer before making it official, but they're pulling away. Then, of course, the update from David Ornstein landed, which didn't mention Tottenham, but was all about Arsenal. And I think we all have this general view when Ornstein starts talking about transfers, there's always a good chance there it's either very true or going to happen. And he said Arsenal working on the deal to sign Hincapie from Bayer Leverkusen, subject to the player's exit. 22-year-old has told Leverkusen he wishes to leave. He's prioritising Arsenal above others. So he doesn't mention Tottenham specifically at this point, but it's likely to come. Then it all kind of came together. You're like, okay, I understand the media's sort of agenda here, or the media connected to Tottenham. They're doing what Newcastle have done to Liverpool all summer, and they've done it today. I literally read reports today where Craig Hope said things have changed at the club, Isak's staying. Yet they go out and bid for Larsson. They might say, well, Larsson is the Callum Wilson replacement. Last week, those journalists said Wissa is the Callum Wilson replacement, and they're still active in him as well. So the Spurs press is sort of doing this thing that I think is going to die out in the next couple of years. This summer has almost made it to a point where I don't think fans in their heart of hearts want this biased... if they're not getting the signings, they don't want the biased media spinning it. This idea that Spurs weren't active, Spurs weren't looking, this was a shock to everybody, is just purely to save face because Arsenal have got involved and Arsenal Football Club have beaten Spurs to the player. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Man United did it when we were looking at Gyökeres. Oh, there was no formal offers. There was no formal bids. A lot of our journalists that are not so much transfer journalists and more sports journalists were like, oh, I've not even really heard his name mentioned much by the higher echelons. Of course you're going to say that. It's to save face so we can pivot elsewhere. I can take it when it's about my club, but I'll give it out exactly the same in the opposite direction. Now, Arsenal are getting a lot of criticism, though. Well, why another centre-back? Why another centre-back? Well, Kivior is likely to leave. This is also a centre-back that can cover in the fullback positions. And as much as Calafiori started the season, he did have a number of injury concerns last year. That could happen again. You've also got to factor in, Mosquera's coming too, but there is one long-term planning for Gabriel that isn't old, but he's not a baby. And there is also this pending exit. And Arsenal fans may not like hearing this, but I think we have to speak about the reality of things in football. There is a genuine reality, a genuine possibility that in the next 12 months, William Saliba is subject to mass interest, heavy interest, and a heavy pursuit by Real Madrid. Arsenal Football Club are sensible, they are smart, and they are forward-thinking in their approach to have that replacement in now. What would be stupid, what would be ridiculous, what would be bad by Arsenal is to just assume that William Saliba is going to stay, have no backups already at the club, and then scramble around looking for the right player as and when he is sold. Because typically speaking, when players want to go to Real Madrid, it ends up happening. So Arsenal will either agree on a fee, or the player won't sign a new deal. I don't think he signed a new deal as of yet. If I've got that wrong, slam me in the comment sections and move on. So I kind of get this, oh my God, Arsenal are buying more defenders. But people are not asking why. The funniest one are the Chelsea fans doing it. Who I think, hang on. I defend you as well on this, but you're a club that has been hoarding players in multiple positions for years, and yet you have the audacity to call Arsenal out for strengthening up an area which they're about to lose players in. They're about to lose. They're probably going to lose Zinchenko. They're going to lose Kivior. So that's two players out. So yes, they're buying two defenders to replace two defenders that are leaving. They have some injury concerns around others, and the Ben White again injured. They've got to get this cover in. And they've got to get this back up, and they've got to get players that have the potential to be the first teamers if there's long-term injury. And as good as I thought Kivior was when he came in last year, I still think they want a level above it. So for me, it makes absolute perfect sense in every single which way. But of course, it's Arsenal, so people just want to attack it. It's very boring, but it's the way it goes. But insult to injury, taking another player off Tottenham, I think is absolutely massive, even just from a fan and PR perspective. But as ever, I want your views, I want your opinions in our comment section below. Take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace!